Muhammad Johnson. Okay, Mr. Muhammad. Thank you. Do you hear me, Mr. Muhammad? Okay. We discussed about the century and expected monetary value. We explained about it and review one example in this slide. After that, about sensitivity analysis, that is a technique used to show the effect or amount of effect of changing one or more variables on an outcome. In general, by sensitivity analysis, we review and we determine the effects of the changing of any variable and how much it will affect on an outcome or an objective. In general, it is sensitivity analysis, and we want to use sensitivity analysis to risk analyzing. So, sensitivity analysis is a technique used to show the effect of changing one or more variables together. Sometimes we determine the effect of only one variable, changing one variable, sometimes about more than one variable. Effect of changing one or more variables on an outcome or objective. For example, many people use it to determine what the monthly payments for a loan, for example, in the bank, will be given different interest rates or periods of the loan, or for determining break-even points based on different assumptions. Okay, this is a simple example for using sensitivity analysis. For example, in the first stage of risk management, about identifying the risk, we can use sensitivity analysis and sort the list of the risk according their sensitivity, or according the effects on objective of that project. And after that, we will select the most important, most sensitive risks in our project, and after that we use this risk at the first steps of risk management, and we know that some risk will be added at the next stages of risk management and project construction, and some risk will be omitted from the list of our risk in risk management during the life of the project. So, spreadsheet software such as Excel, is a common tool for performing sensitivity analysis. For an example, this figure is sample sensitivity analysis for determining break-even point. In this example, we have some data. In the black column, there are units sold for some production, for example. Units sold. The green columns is about the amounts of revenue or income, and the red one is expense or the cost for that for these productions. So for determine the break-even point, in this example, we have the horizontal axis for units sold from 0 to 20,000 dollars, and for the amount units sold from 0 to 20,000, and the vertical axis is about the amount from 50 to 300,000 dollars, and the green line is the variation of revenue according the changing of units sold, and the red one is about the changing of expense of costs according to the variation of units sold. And in the cross points of these two lines, we can determine the break-even point. So under this diagram, there are sales price per unit, that is $12 in this example, and the manufacturing cost for per unit is $8, and fixed monthly expense is $25,000. So for break-even point unit sold is 6,250, and the revenue at this point, at break-even point, it's $75,000. So for one example, like this example, we can use the sensitivity analysis for determining the break-even point. And we can use this technique for any project, for example, about the sensitivity analysis about the risk, and for risk analysis in our risk management. The next part is about risk response planning. After identifying, we reviewed the steps of risk management, but in this slide, we explain and discuss in detail about these steps. So about risk response planning, after identifying and quantifying the risk, you must decide how to respond to them. After identifying and quantifying risk, you must decide how to respond to them. We explained that, and you must notice that from the first step, that is planning the risk management, we must determine the suitable response for any risk from the first step. Especially in the second step, that is identifying the risk in our project. We must make a list of risks and their suitable and sufficient responses. And notice that sometimes some risk has more than one response. More than one response. And in these cases, we must decide about the best response for that risk with some techniques. For example, expert judgment, for example, with sensitivity analysis, with some decision methods. We must decide about the best response for any risk. For that case is that the risk has more than one response. And to have more than response, we must decide about the best response for that risk in that stage. Okay? And about risk response planning, 4 main responses, strategies for only negative risks there are, such as first one, risk avoidance. Second one is risk acceptance. Third strategy is risk transference. And the fourth strategy about negative risk or threats is risk mitigation. Okay, reduction or mitigation. Okay. The table is general risk mitigation strategies for technical and cost and schedule or time risks. About technical risks, such as emphasize team support and avoid a standalone project structure. Or increase project manager authority. And the next one, improve problem handling and communication in our project. Next one is about technical risk. Increase the frequency of project monitoring. And the last one is use WBS and CPM. critical path method in our project. And about cost risks, the first one is increase the main strategies for risk mitigations. About cost risk, and in any project is strategies for any group or any category of risk can discussed and reviewed in details. Okay. About cost risk, the first one is increase the frequency of project monitoring. And next one is use WBS work breakdown structure in CPM. Next one is improve communication, project goals or objectives, understanding and team support. And the last one is increase project managers' authority. And about visual risks, the first one is increase the frequency of project monitoring. Next one is use WBS and CPM. And the last one about the schedule risk is select the most experienced project managers. Okay, engineers, any question until now? Okay. Mr. Engineer Nama Atiya, what include our resources, materials, and power, etc.? Mr. Engineer Nama Atiya, excuse me. This question is about what part? Which part of our discussion? Mr. Engineer Nama Atiya, do you hear me? Mr. Engineer Batul Nama Atiya, do you hear me? The question is not clear. Please write or tell that this question is belonging to what part? What about? Engineers, any question until now? We are waiting for the question of Mr. Engineer Batul Nama Atiya. It's not clear. Any question, engineers, ladies and gentlemen? Mr. Engineer Batul Nama Atiya, please find your microphone or write the question in the chat part. Which part do you mean about this question? Mr. Engineer Batul Nama Atiya, do you hear me? Miss Engineer Atulnamatia. You hear me? Mr. Engineer Muhammad Yusuf Yasin, do you hear me?
بلى دكتور.
Okay. Is my sound clear for you?
Yes, doctor.
Okay. Do you know anything, the question of Miss Engineer Namatia? Because it's not clear. Mr. Muhammad Yusuf?
Doctor, but Namate, there is a problem in her phone.
Yes. Yes. About her question. Does that include also resources such as materials, manpower, etc.?
I can tell her about the question.
Mr. Muhammad Yusuf, do you hear me?
بلى دكتور, yes.
Okay. Do you know anything about her question, about the lecture, not about the microphone or a speaker?
No, doctor, there is no question.
Mr. Engineer Namatiya, do you hear me? Okay, I'm waiting for Ms. Engineer Namatiya about her question.
Doctor, I think يعني general risk included materials and
general risk mitigation. Yes. If this question is about.
Doctor, I think يعني.
Okay. If this question is about general risk mitigation strategies or about general risk, yes. This is about all of the sources of our risks.
Yes,
or of our project. If this question is about this part, it's about this part. Yes. The answer is positive. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Engineer Taleb Kazem.
Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you. And about response strategies for positive risk or opportunities. These are different. Response strategies, main response strategies for positive risk are such as first one, risk exploitation or extraction. To make some benefits from the risk, from that opportunity. The first strategy, risk exploitation. The second one about the strategies for opportunities is risk sharing. The third one is risk enhancement, or increase the positive effect of that risk enhancement. And the last strategy about opportunities is risk acceptance. Okay. About the residual and secondary risks. This part is very important. Residual and secondary risk. Notice. It's also important to identify these two kinds of risk, residual and secondary risk. It's also important very important to identify these two kinds of risks, such as residual and secondary risk. About residual risk, these are risks that remain after all of the response strategies have been implemented. When we deal with all of the responses about all of the risk, some risk will be remained or will appear in our project after dealing with all of the responses about the risks. So residual risks or remained risks, or risks that remain after all of the response strategies have been implemented, deal with. And about secondary risk is very important. Secondary risk are a direct result of implementation or dealing with a risk response. Sometimes after dealing with some responses about some risks, some new risk or secondary risk will be appeared in our project. So secondary risks are a direct result of implementation or dealing with a risk response. Okay. Okay, Mr. Mohammed Salman asked about this table that if increasing the project manager's authority is considered a technical risk. Okay. If increasing the project managers, the question of Mr. Mohammed Salman. Project manager's authority is considered a technical risk. What added to cost risk? Because some activities and some strategies or responses can have some overlaps and some common effects about any categories of risk. آیا مهندس صداقت excuse me engineers آیا مهندس صداقت اگه صدا من دارید خسته نباشید و روز شما بخیر باشید. Okay, so increasing the manager's authority can be a strategy for technical risk about some details in technical risk, because some uncertainties are belong to management of the projects. Okay, and it's about the authority, the amount of authority of manager in our project, and about cost risks. Sometimes by increasing the authority of the manager, some costs in our project will be decreased. And these two items are belong to the management of the project, about technical risk and cost risk in this part. These are about the problem in management of the project, about technical risk or cost risk, and sometimes about the schedule risks. And it can be a strategy for schedule risks, increasing the authority of the manager, because some problem and some uncertainties in our project is related to the good or bad management in our project. Okay, Mr. Mohammed Salman. Any question, Mr. Mohammed Salman? Okay, thank you. Engineers, any question? Any other question? Okay. We repeat about the response strategies for positive opportunities. One or the first strategy is about risk exploitation. Next one is risk sharing. After that, risk enhancement or increasing the effect or probability effect and or probability of that risk enhancement, increasing the probability and or effect of that risk. And the last one is risk acceptance. Okay, and about residual and secondary risk. Residual risk are the risk that will be appeared after all responses of the risk, and about secondary risk, there are direct result of dealing with some risk responses. These are different. And about media snapshots or scanning of media to use some tools, some softwares in risk management. Media snapshot. In the first part, there is an example for the worst case about risk management, an example for the worst case. A highly publicized example of a risk response to corporate financial scandals, unfortunately. A highly publicized example of a risk response to corporate financial scandals, such as those affecting Enron, Arthur Andersen, and the WorldCom was legal action because they didn't deal with risk management, or the risk management wasn't sufficient or suitable with the suitable efficiency in their project. And the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002 is considered the most significant change to federal securities laws in the United States since the New Deal. And this act has caused many organizations to initiate projects and other activities to avoid litigation. The source is also John C. or what the Sarbanes-Oxley Act means for IT managers. Technical Republic, March 19, 2003, and this address of this document, this source. Okay. these were some examples about some projects and some events in the last in United States that there was not any risk management, or they deal bad risk management in their projects, and some problems in their project and events. And about risk monitoring and control. Risk monitoring and control, that is the last steps of risk management. And we discussed that risk management is a cyclic and dynamic process, not linear process. And will be repeat until the closing the project. So risk monitoring and control, first part involves executing the risk management process to respond to risk events. Involves executing the risk management process to respond to risk events. And workarounds or unplanned responses to risk events about workarounds that are unplanned responses to risk events that must be done when there are no contingency or probability. Contingency probability plans. Workaround or unplanned responses to risk events that must be done when there are no contingency plans. And the last part is main outputs of risk monitoring and control are: first one, requested changes for risk and their responses, and sometimes some opportunity change to threats, and inverse, some threats will change to opportunity. And some changes about some risk and about some responses. That with these changes, we will the risk register and report it to the project manager or project management team. We discussed about this part. So main outputs of risk monitoring and control are such as requested changes for risk and their responses. Next one is recommended corrective sometimes, and sometimes preventive actions. So by monitoring and control the responses of the risk after dealing with them, we discussed. Last parts, last lectures. So one of the most important output of this activity, monitoring and control of risk responses, is recommended corrective and sometimes preventive actions about the responses of the risk. And the last one is updates the risk register, update the risk register. After that, project management, not risk management, project management plan, and organizational process assets. It's very important. With some changes, some recommendations about risk and their responses. We will update the risk register after that project management plan and organizational process assets too. Okay. Engineers, any question? No question. If you can connect your microphone, please connect your microphone and ask me about your question. Or not, you can write your question about any part in the chat part. Okay, Miss Engineer Abbas Al-Baizai.
بله دكتور. Doctor, can you tell us an example about a risk and how to monitor and control this risk?
Yes. For example, with a simple example about the safety in our project, we must use some laws and some equipment and some instruments for prevent some bad events in our project. Okay. And the responses for these threats about the safety in our project can refer to project managers. And after that, in a suitable time, we can control and monitor. We can record the events about the safety in our project and process this data in our project. We can decide about the efficiency of that response. If it have good efficient or enough efficient in our project for prevent some injuries, some events in our project, we will continue with this response. But these events are not prevented. We must change the response. And we must update the risk register about this response. And after that, we must change the response in our and deal with these responses in our project. And so we must monitor them, monitor and control. If the new response is suitable, it has good sufficient in our project, and it prevents the event in that stage, it's suitable, and we will continue with this response. If not, we must change the response. Okay, Ms. Engineer?
Valid, Doctor, valid. But Doctor, we mentioned workarounds are unplanned response. How to يعني workarounds are unplanned response to risk events.
Yes.
How we change the response?
Okay. Workaround responses are some responses that don't have a good plan in our project. And we must deal with by try and error, and it's not suitable. Okay, and but sometimes some responses are kind of workarounds in our project, and like other responses, we must control and monitor them, and if it's is not suitable with good efficient in our project, we must change them, like other responses. These
Come on, doctor.
Okay, these kinds of responses are unplanned or not good planned responses in our project. Sometimes there are some responses in this kind, workaround responses. Okay. Thank you. Engineers, other questions? Any other questions? You can come to a microphone or write your question in the chat part. Okay, Mr. Mohammed Youssef, any question? Okay. No question. Continue. That part I tell you is in this slide. Using software to assist in